When do we actually move past our limits? It's currently 2:46 a.m. I have a lot of books to read. I have an exam coming up soon, a very important exam. And at a point, I really had to take a step back and pause and ask myself why it seemed as though the efforts I was putting in didn't feel like I was doing sufficient enough or doing anything that was sufficient. But then it made me recall different instances in my life when I've tried to get into a state of self-development, learning a language, learning how to do push-ups, attempting to learn how to do push-ups, handstands, how to type fast without looking at the keyboard, improve academically, increase my concentration span, study, read more books, other books aside from textbooks, learn how to speak properly, public speaking. I've tried a lot of things, and I've now come to notice this cycle of starting, because for me, starting isn't really the issue. Starting and then maybe keeping up a couple of days, keeping up a couple of weeks, maybe some 2 weeks, and then there's a decline in the ability to continue. And so it's like I could do side splits, but I can't do middle splits. I could do all push up, but I can't do action push up. Or I could introduce myself in the language, but I'm not really fluent. Oh, I can type without looking at the keyboard, but my speed is and then it leads to kind of like it leads to half-baked results. I think that is that is what I have come to realize I need to fight against. Starting, trying to keep up and then not finishing or not getting to the point of achieving the goal. And so I wonder when does one push, or how does one push themselves past that limit of stopping? Let me put it this way. Say this is a line, and then I always notice that whenever I get to this point, I stop. I'm never assuming I all this aspect I mentioned, all these examples. It always ends with me running and then getting close and stopping. And then I really want to get past this, get past this and get to the other end and know what it's like to actually follow through, to actually be a fluent speaker, to actually be able to do push-up handstands, to be able to study for a long duration of time, concentrate, to have good grades, excellent grades, more fluent speaking, have more fluency, proficiency, read more books. What do I do to cross that bridge to get to that point of an actual achievement? That is what I've been thinking about, and I've been sitting here wondering at this exact point in time. Perhaps it's like midnight thought process kind of thing, but yeah. I've seen a lot of videos, and I do know that motivation isn't sufficient to get us to where we want to be. I do know that. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. I'm also a YouTube. I used to be because now I'm too preoccupied. But I used to be a YouTube addict, or like I watched a lot of videos, and so definitely I have seen a lot of self-help videos, a lot of motivational videos, a lot of like do this and do that and don't do this and do that. But then it's almost like, yes, when you see those videos, you get pumped. get pumped. You're like, yeah, I can do it. I definitely can do it. And then it's 2 weeks in, and you can't probably remember the last time you did it. Or say it's 3 weeks in and you can't remember the last time you did it. That is what I want to fight against. And then I've heard people mention drive. Like you don't need motivation, you need drive. It's drive you need. Does that mean that I do not have enough drive? So then what sort of drive do I need? Say for instance, in one category, language learning. I thought since my drive is I want to be able to speak fluently and interact with native speakers, that would be sufficient for me to, forge ahead. It seems that isn't enough or more so is sufficient drive. And then there's an instance where I say, oh, I'm writing an exam, for example, and I need to prepare for this language exam or this exam. And then it still isn't like it. Perhaps I need to read more books. Perhaps there's something that I do not yet know. Well, obviously, we can't exactly know everything. I'm so sorry I have to put this video out there. Anyways,